Good evening. Broadcasting live, Canada Day, July 1st, 2016. First day back from Asia, or first broadcast anyway. I've been away for a month. I'm just getting back and adjusting to the time change. So apologies for missing a month, but it's probably it's the last scheduled trip to Asia for me in the foreseeable future. Not that the future is very foreseeable, and I may just turn around and head back at any time. But no plans. The plans are to stay in Canada, and we're moving. We've signed a lease for a new house, and I know moving is not the greatest thing to do when you're trying to set up and establish a meditation center, but we needed more room. We have many people interested in coming to meditate this month, next month, all through to September and even onward, so we needed more room. So the new house has 6 bedrooms, and it's about the same distance, in the same area, so we're not moving far. And that'll be July 15th or 16th. So things are really coming together. We are moving forward, and you should see good things coming in the future. And I will for sure try to get back to doing more videos, get back to the Dhammapada, and of course daily broadcast. Today we have a very short quote, but pithy all the same. It's from the Alagadupama Sutta, Snakes Sutta. And the sutta, it's to a monk who claims that the Buddha's teaching is wrong. That what the Buddha talks about as problems, what the Buddha identifies as being the problem is not really a problem. Craving is not a problem. Clinging to things doesn't cause suffering. Desires are good. Desire is not the cause of suffering. Tanha, thirst, is not a cause for alarm. They really don't obstruct you. They don't cause problems. And so the monks call him out on this, and they bring him to the Buddha. And the Buddha, of course, is not concerned by this, which is important to note, because it's easy to be disturbed when other people challenge us, challenge our views, challenge our practices. It's okay to acknowledge that you have doubt. But it's important to acknowledge if you have your own doubt. It's perhaps too common for people to pretend confidence that they don't have, and to force a confidence. It's also common for there to be an overconfidence, such confidence that you think that you're sure of something. It's common with Buddhism, because Buddhism sounds so good. And even when you don't know something, you have such confidence in it that you'll defend it to anyone. But that confidence is weak. It's fickle. I've seen often this sort of confidence, very strong, become strong doubt, suddenly switch. It's not based on understanding. Now, of course, the claim is that the Buddha understood, and of course many monks actually understood. Honestly, it's not that hard to understand. If you understand Buddhism, it's not like it's something that we can question, that craving is a problem. And we know that addiction causes suffering. And if you think, if an intelligent person thinks about it, they can quickly see that there's, this is why we kind of accept these things as vices. We just don't take them seriously. The most common is not that we don't believe what the Buddha taught is correct. It's just we don't really take it seriously, and we don't think it through clearly. So we understand that addiction is a problem, but we don't see the problem in what turns out to be addiction. The likes and dislikes of life, I think they're not really a problem, even though they're addiction nonetheless, addiction and aversion, because we don't look closely enough. Anyway, it's very difficult to come to this understanding that all craving and nothing is worth clinging to, that kind of thing. But of course the Buddha had this understanding. This was his unshakable belief through knowledge, belief through understanding. So I bring this up is because the Buddha calls him out on it. He said, "Oh, fine, you believe this, but who cares what you believe?" Basically, he says. He turns to the monks and he says, "Has this monk produced any spark of understanding in this teaching and discipline?" And the monks say, "How should that be, Lord? Certainly not." Basically, who cares what he says? I mean, he hasn't learned anything. He hasn't come to any of his own realizations. It's just spouting belief. Which is another important point, is we often equate people's beliefs. I believe that craving is the cause of suffering. And the person may believe that craving is not the cause of suffering. And it's common for people to say, well, everyone is entitled to their belief. Well, yes, sure, but not all beliefs are equal. I believe that homosexual people deserve to be killed. That's not an equal belief to believing that all life is sacred, or any killing is perverse and wrong, no matter what. Like the killing of Hitler would be wrong. It's a very different belief from killing Jews is a good thing. Very different beliefs. And hotly debated, for the most part. Beliefs are, it's actually good when they're hotly debated. It's good for there to be debate. What I think is more dangerous is when there's no debate. When and one of two things happens. The first is that we say all beliefs are to each their own kind of thing. And the other is where we put it aside and fail to recognize the importance of belief in informing people's actions. So when someone kills a bunch of people who happen to be homosexual and killer who happens to be of a certain religion that calls for the killing of homosexual people, it's funny how we tend to ignore or marginalize. I mean, there's two groups. There's the groups who immediately call for the persecution of all people of that faith. And then there's those who try and minimalize, almost apologize for the even considering the idea that religion might have played some part. I suppose both are dangerous. It's dangerous to say that all people who follow a certain religion, are evil. It's even more dangerous to pretend that religion can't be evil. Beliefs can't be evil. I mean, that's another thing is we fail to equate religion with view. So we've grown up as a society believing that religion is a part of who you are in the same way as your nationality or your skin color or your language. It's just another part of who you are, because it's very much tied to that, right? Or it has been traditionally. Buddhists have been Asian, Christians have been European or African. It's a very general, broad story. Maybe Latino as well. Muslims have been brown skin. Hindus the same. You know, this is traditional, and countries. This country is this. This country is that. But regardless of how, it's become just another part of who we are, innocuous like the rest of these things. So once you start equating religion to nationality or skin color, or not even associating, but putting it in a similar category to language, even culture, it's just another thing. The problem is it's not. Religion is unlike any of those things. None of those things mean anything compared to religion. There's no other one thing. And you could argue that language affects who you are, skin color, geographic location, but they're all fairly irrelevant arguments that don't have any meaningful effect on a person. Nowhere near the effect that a religion has. Religion is quite different. Does have a strong effect on who someone is. Does change how a person will react. Now, it isn't the only thing, of course, that informs a person. I mean, culture informs a person's action, changes how one acts. Different cultures have different responses, but even culture is very much affected by religion. But why religion is special is because it has explicit statements, like 2 men who lie down together should be stoned to death. Heck, a son who says to his father, hey, let's go worship other gods, should be stoned to death. The religion I was brought up says such things. Brought up with. A woman who refuses intercourse should be beaten. Women who are not subservient to their husbands should be beaten. Lots of religions say lots of crazy things, and it's a shame that we like to whitewash these things. So often you hear people say, all religions' basic message is love. I heard this recently, got in an argument with someone, a brief argument, wasn't really drawn into it. But the idea that someone could say that is, I mean, for a student of religion, it's, I don't know, I mean, for a real academic student of religion, they probably wouldn't say the things that I say. They tend to be more neutral and just study it like a dead snake or something, like a dead body. But religion is very much a live snake. It has teeth. It has poison. There's much poison in religion. Even Buddhism isn't perfect. There are things in Buddhism that are questionable. Not much, but I mean, the biggest thing in Buddhism is probably the misogyny. It's a shame that it's come to be fairly misogynistic in certain aspects. I mean, there are arguments you could make and interpretations that you could give that neutralize it to some extent. And I think that's an important step moving forward for all religions, is to interpret passages, to minimalize passages, to marginalize them. Because I don't think we're going to get religious people to give up their religion or to give up certain teachings. But we can reinterpret them, and we can marginalize them, minimalize them. I think that's reasonable. That's what Jews have done. I mean, you don't see Jewish people stoning gays. There's a lot of gay Jews. My cousin is gay, and he's very Jewish, which seems absurd because it's very clearly written in the texts that he studies and worships for the God that he worships. It was handed down that people like him should be stoned to death. Clearly, there's no reinterpreting that. It's not like it was something you can, I mean, hey, maybe you can, and maybe people do. Maybe we could just reinterpret it to mean they should get stoned or something, which, while not condoned by Buddhists, is much better than the alternative. But there's like this passage in Islam that seems to say a woman should be beaten for refusing sexual intercourse, or for disobeying her husband, something like that. There's a clear word that is translated, but there's an attempt to retranslate it. No, you shouldn't beat your wife, you should talk to her. And this word could also mean just talking to her, which is probably a better, well, let's not be facetious, it's a much better solution, to put it mildly. But we can also marginalize these teachings. That's what Jewish people do. They just don't pay attention to them. They say that was then, this is now. You may think that's somewhat hypocritical or simplistic, but it's better than the alternative, and it's a sure step moving forward. I mean, I think a lot of Muslim men probably do beat their wives, but I'm sure there are Muslim men who don't. I have a friend who grew up in a Muslim, an old student who grew up in a Muslim household and was beaten constantly until she ran away from home. I mean, that's not something you should ignore. We can't give Muslims a carte blanche or say it's just cultural. We can't give Islam this path when it says these things. It has to be addressed. Because it's naive to think that it's not having consequences. And then you could say, well, non-Muslim men beat their wives and children. Of course. Of course, there are many reasons why people do bad things. But you can't tell me that religion doesn't play a part in that. It's not the only factor, but it is a factor. Yeah. When you take Christianity, I don't think there's anything in Christianity that tells men to beat their wives and children. And yet there are some people whose Christianity even involves corporal punishment. I mean, heck, maybe there is something, I can't think of it, but it's not just the texts, it's your beliefs. It doesn't just come from what Jesus actually said or what Muhammad actually said or what Moses actually said, but it comes from your belief. Though I think it should be made clear that the things that these people said are not to be discounted, and they are powerful. Anyway, let's get back on track here. But it's an interesting digression into the power of religion and the differences of religion and how these views need to be addressed. These views that exist in books, we have to either start ignoring them, diminishing their importance, or reinterpreting them, or we just have to give up the religion. There was someone posted this meme, I guess you call it, or one of these slogans or these pithy sayings was, if religions don't respect the sacred, something like the right for homosexuals to live, then maybe it's time for religions to die. I agree completely. It's on religions if we can't adapt. And it's not proper to say that this is a misinterpretation. Heck, maybe it is. Maybe that's how we should say it. But it's naive. These texts say what they say. And to simply say that those people who kill in the name of religion don't understand religion is wrong. There are many religions that tell their people to kill. Anyway, Buddhism certainly doesn't. Buddhism is very much the opposite and is often criticized for not killing. A Buddhist would not have killed Hitler, for example. And there are lots of Buddhists who would disagree with that, who would say, I would kill Hitler if I had the chance. So a Buddhist like me would argue that person is not Buddhist, and then we get into an argument. And so on. But Buddhism is a very, very peaceful religion. It's a religion that some people would call selfish because it's very self-centered, centered on one's individual happiness. I mean, this is Theravada Buddhism anyway. Believes that if we seek out our own peace and our own happiness, then the world becomes a better place. That's not that that's even the goal. The goal is not to make the world a better place. The goal is peace. And peace can only happen on an individual level, according to Buddhism. Wow, 45 viewers today. It's a big audience. Listen to my rant on religion. But how this whole talk relates to our sutta today, our quote today, because Arita has this view, but it's not equal to the Buddha's view, because Arita's view, as the Buddha points out, is It's nothing to do with his experience or his realization. It has all to do with his ignorance and his own inborn um, partialities, inborn habits, which is crucial. Not all views are equal. Getting back to this point, that you can't say, well, Advaita believed this and Buddha believed that. Advaita believed that craving was not a problem, Buddha believed it was a problem. Well, to each their own. It's not fair. Because the Buddha spent a long time, working hard to form his view. And the Rita just comes along and says, well, I believe otherwise. This is very, very troublesome. It's a shame that we would give equal weight to these two views. It would be a shame if we did. It's a shame on those who do. Because Arita is lazy and hasn't done anything to make us think that his views should be even entertained. So that's really the bold claim in Buddhism. What's great about Buddhism is it's just a matter of investigating. We don't expect people to believe. We don't think that one should believe something without investigating. And the claim is that if you investigate, if you actually look, what you will see is what the Buddha taught. That's just a claim. You can investigate it. If you find out that it's wrong, wonderful. We'll all be very happy to know that you found the real truth. The claim is that when we do, and those of us who do investigate, understand there's nothing worth clinging to. And anything that we still cling to is only because we don't understand it. We haven't understood that. It's the claim. It's not a matter of believing or forcing or repeating this again and again to yourself. It's just about looking, just about objective observation of reality. When you look at reality objectively, without judgment, without just as it is, without any preconception or view. And that's important. It's not to trivialize this process. It's not like it's easy. You can just open the door and, oh, there you see. You have to do some serious objectifying. You have to objectify things, turn them into cold, calculated observations. Take yourself out of this preconception, this mode of preconception. So this is why we have this technical practice, mechanical practice of reminding ourselves, of walking back and forth, of sitting. Someone even today said to me, this is very mechanical. And I get this often. I used to feel kind of, apologetic about it, but it's not to be apologetic about. Of course it's mechanical. That's the point. The point is we want to make it as cold and emotional, I guess, as possible. I want this to be like a science project. But the problem is you're the subject. And no one wants to be a machine. No one wants to be a robot. And that's a very great fear that we have, of losing ourselves, of losing who we are. The thing is, when you do something mechanical like this, you don't become a robot. You become peaceful. But in the meantime, your whole being, why we do this is because your whole being screams out against it. It's those screams we want to hear. It's that opposition, the rejection that we want to feel, that intense need for stimulation that we want to taste. Because that's the problem. That's the undeniable problem. Once you see it, you can't deny that this is insanity, that we are lost, that we are obsessed with things that have no way of satisfying us. So we start to see a disconnect between the reality of things and our appreciation of them. So on the one hand, as we're watching reality, we see how abysmally insipid it all is, uninteresting. Watching your stomach is not an interesting thing. It's not like, it is quite interesting, but it's not an appealing thing. It's not going to make you go, wow, that's awesome. Instead, it might make you go, wow, that's crazy. Make you reject it because it's unpleasant. Unpleasant in the sense of it's impermanent, it's unstable, it's unpredictable. It's not something that's going to be, it's not something that's going to make you happy. It's not something that's satisfying. And so there'll be this great rejection of it. And so on one hand, you'll see this insipid nature. On the other hand, there'll be a desire for these things. So you'll see this in regards to sights and sounds and smells. As a meditator practices, even the food that they eat becomes tasteless. And so they'll have this craving, and then they'll indulge, but as they're being mindful, they see how the indulging doesn't measure up to the hype of the craving. Oh, that's going to make me happy, and then it doesn't. So the Buddha says, sense desires bring little enjoyment and much suffering and disappointment. The perils in them are great. Sense desires are like bare bones, I have said. They are like a lump of flesh. They are like a snake's head. And they bring much suffering and disappointment. Aditya has wrongly grasped the teaching. And then he gives the alagadupama, which is the simile of a snake. He says if someone goes and looks for a snake, he sees a large snake, and he wants that snake, so he grabs it by the tail. He grabs it by the tail and thinks, good, now I've got this snake, and the snake turns around and bites him and kills him. Why is that? Because he grabbed it by the tail. He had an improper grasp of the teachings of the snake. And then there's another person who, looking for the snake, knows how to grab a snake. Takes it right behind the neck. Snakes are actually quite easy to catch, unless it's a big, big snake. Grab it behind the neck. They're not monsters. They're not even that intelligent. Just grab them behind the neck, right behind the head. Best thing is, what the Buddha says here, I think, is, he doesn't even grasp it. He gets a forked stick, and he uses the stick to hold it down, pin it down, and then he grabs it. You have the right kind of stick. You don't even have to get close to the snake. Just put the stick down behind its neck, pin it there, and then grab it. Teaching is very much the same. Not the stick. You don't need a stick, but you need proper grasp. Proper grasp. And this is the idea of misinterpretation. So then you could argue, well, how do we know one interpretation of the Buddhist teaching is better than another? I don't think it's that difficult, and I don't think the interpretations are that varied. I do think that meditation techniques vary, and vary in their potency. But we all believe that. I think it's wrong for people to say this meditation is wrong, this way is... So many people say that about the Mahasi Sayadaw tradition, that it's wrong, misguided. So you might take that as meaning that it is wrong, which is fine. But that's a lot of people do that out of belief. They've never really given it a chance, and so they do it without investigating. Those people, of course, who practice tend to think that it's wonderful and beneficial and helpful. I get this a lot in Sri Lanka when I go there. People don't want to practice and they challenge me. And it's kind of fun because you can say, well, you know, ehi pasa, come see. Try it out. 100% guarantee. There's no doubt anyone who puts this into practice will see the benefit. And it goes through some other, it goes to the simile of the raft and on and on. It's a really good sutta. But in the end, he comes, I think at the very end, yes. He says, he gives our quote, today's quote, if I can find it. This teaching is so well proclaimed by me and is plain, open, explicit, and free from patchwork. Which one is the... Right. Those monks who are mature in Dhamma, mature in faith, are all headed for full enlightenment. Those who believe it. Now, I think the commentary will go on to say that this is sotapanna. This isn't just anyone who has faith in the teachings. But I think it bears discussion of simple faith. People who have real faith in the Buddhist teaching to the extent that they're going to put it into practice. They are bound for enlightenment. And I think what's important about that is to talk about the power of faith. Faith is good. Faith is powerful. Let's put it, maybe not good is too strong a word, but it is considered in Buddhism to be intrinsically good in the sense that it helps the person. Faith helps you. Talk about faith healing. I think that's right. I think faith does heal because of the power it has over the mind. Of course, doubt is something that disturbs you, stresses you, upsets you. The problem, of course, that anyone can see is that it's not the faith that becomes a problem, but if you have faith in the wrong thing, that's a serious problem. It's a very dangerous problem because of the very power of faith, because of how good faith is for you. If you have belief in the wrong thing, if you believe that killing people is good, it's horrible. But it's more horrible because of how powerful, because of how good faith is. Faith is good for you. That's a problem when your faith has an improper focus, because it empowers you to act and to follow that faith. So to end up doing and saying and thinking nasty things. But if you believe in Buddhism, it's kind of just lucky for you, you know. Good that you found the right faith, because eventually that faith will turn to knowledge. Eventually that belief that this practice is helpful. And of course, the cynic might say, well, belief is not enough. You know, some people believe but never practice. This is true. And some people practice without belief, which is also true. But I think it's important to note that faith helps. And faith in the practice will lead you to practice. And a person who really believes that something is good will do it and won't need faith anymore. But the point I wanted to make is that faith is fickle. It's hard, not fickle, but faith is a gamble. Faith is very dangerous because by itself it is nothing. It has no reason. You believe something. You can believe something for any reason, unless you believe something out of cause and effect, or experience and investigation. It's just a crapshoot. Maybe you're Christian, maybe you're Jewish, maybe you're Buddhist. Some people just get lucky and they're born into the right religion. But more importantly, faith is not enough. Faith is good, but what is most important is true faith. That this teaching is so great that those people who have unshakable faith in it, those people who have come to investigate it and have come to see enough to believe in the truth, these are the true people of true faith. Buddhism is so great that those people, unlike those people who have great faith in another religion, those people, those monks, are destined to be free from suffering. It's a claim that basically that all religions make. But the Buddha here is saying it as a matter of fact, as how great it is, how great the Dhamma is. It's great that it's actually true for one. And I've skipped the rest of the sutta, but I think what is different here is, and we shouldn't gloss over it, and why I mentioned that I've skipped the suttas, because the sutta itself is what's important. The teaching itself is what's important. I've actually skipped teachings here, teachings on impermanence, where he goes into it, and it's really the crucial aspect. So the point to be made is that the Buddha is talking about the Dhamma. He's not talking about some belief or some claims. He's talking about a teaching. The teaching is so great that it actually works. You don't just have to believe it. You just have to believe that if I worship Allah or if I praise Jesus, I'm going to heaven. And then just believe without any evidence. You can investigate. What do you think, monks? Is form permanent or impermanent? That kind of thing. And what do you think? Is the rising and falling, is it permanent or impermanent? Is it stable or unstable? Is it predictable or unpredictable? We don't realize that. When we practice, we see how unpredictable it is. But it disturbs us and it makes us think that we're doing something wrong. Why? Because, well, we are looking for predictability, stability. So, and he says, you may well take hold of a possession, O monks. Hold on to something if it's permanent, stable, eternal, immutable, that abides eternally in the same in its very condition. And he says, but do you see, monks, any such possession? This is a very important aspect. This passage is very important, quotable. It says, hold on to a view of self, from the acceptance of which there would not arise sorrow and lamentation, pain, grief, and despair. But do you see such a view? No, they don't see such a view. Hold on to anything. If something makes you happy, hold on to it. I'm not trying to stop people from being happy. If something makes you happy, that's great. Very good. Problem is, nothing makes you happy when you hold on to it. That's the problem. You don't have to believe it. You don't have to believe that. But investigate. Look closely. Don't be afraid to challenge your views with observation. Challenge our views, my views, anyone's views. Observe, investigate. And as you investigate, you see that everything is unstable. That what reality is really made up of is experiences that are unpredictable, unsatisfying, uncontrollable. And he says, therefore, all form, feeling, memories, thoughts, consciousness should with right wisdom thus be seen as it is. Ne dhammama neso hamasmi neso meyata. This is not mine, this I am not, this is not myself. Seeing this, monks, the well-instructed, noble disciple becomes, he uses disgusted, but I think a better word is disenchanted. Let's go back to the Pali. Rupasmi nibindati, vedanaya nibindati, sanyaya nibindati. This is basically the Satipatthana, the Anatta Lakkhana Sutta. He's just repeating himself. This is he doesn't vary from this theme because this is the core. This is what I mean. So the basic quote here was about those people who believe, who have faith, but their belief is based on having seen these things for themselves. But this is the teaching that is based on. So you could say, well, because I said that all religions make this claim that our teaching leads you to enlightenment. So in and of itself, it's not important. But what's important for us to say, and I think what's great to be able to say, is that, well, in Buddhism's case, it's actually true, and we can show that. We can show anyone that. You don't have to, it's not just belief. I wonder, even many religions would say that. Christians would say, well, I can show you. I know the Mormons do. They highlight a passage in their book and they say, read this passage to yourself and that will show you the truth. Just reading the passage. So it'd be interesting to do a study about that. I get it, because when you read certain passages, it makes you feel happy and gives you faith. And that's fine, It's a bit simplistic is all. To then say that means God has come to you and therefore you should believe our book. Because you can read many different things and make you feel happy and give you great feelings of joy and so on. So the difference is in the teachings. Yes, everyone will say that our teaching leads you to freedom from suffering. Yes, everyone will say that, or many will say that we can show you. Some will say no, some will say you just have to believe and force yourself to believe. But many will actually say they can show you. So that's where the differentiation comes from. All religions say certain things. That's true. Most religions, anyway. But it's the things that they don't say. It's where they differ. That's important, and it's what they actually teach that's important. It's what you believe, the content of the belief that's important. Anyway, I don't think there's much more to say about all this. It's interesting it's great to be able to appreciate Buddhist teaching in this way, to remind ourselves of how great it is. And that even though all religions claim such things, there's no other religion out there that's able to show in such a way. Not just show, but show in such a scientific, clear and undeniable way. It's not something, you can investigate it as much as you want. The more you investigate, the better, the more obvious it becomes. We got some comments here. Hi, everyone. I think followers of religions choose to ignore the bits they feel are no longer relevant to our sense of right. And I think that's good. I mean, it's not the best. The best is would be if they all became Buddhist, of course, but beyond becoming Buddhist, it's great that they can ignore, I think. It's much better than the alternative. I just think we should make that explicit. Make that clear. If you're going to be this religion, if you're going to be Jewish, you have to ignore the stoning of gay people and apostates and that kind of thing. If you're Muslim, you have to ignore or reinterpret those passages that tell you to beat your wife, and so on. And we shouldn't give these religions a pass. It must be clear that, in fact, heck, I mean, it's funny because you shouldn't be allowed to, it should be against the law to promulgate hate like that, right? You shouldn't be able to say gay people should be killed. You shouldn't be able to say that. You shouldn't be able to print it, right? You shouldn't be able to print the Bible, the Quran. These books shouldn't be able to be printed unless they have been reinterpreted, or those passages excised, I think is the word. Doesn't Buddhism teach no view, similar to right view? It's a good point. It's a very good question. Deceptively good, I think, because obviously Buddhism does have view. But in a sense, yes, it is kind of no view. In the sense of it not being a view, it just being the view or the perception of reality. But I think view is a good word for what Buddhism is. It's not really a view in the common usage of the term. But view means seeing, how you see things. So if you see things according to as they are, that's a view. But it's not a view in the sense of an opinion or a belief or the way you look at things. It's not about how you look at things. Buddhism is about how things are and about seeing how things actually are. Take into account the audience of the religious text. Yeah, I mean, that's what a lot of religious people do. Jews tend to say that, well, that was then, this is now, which honestly is not the best excuse, because there was never an excuse to beat your wife, unless she's attacking someone, and then you should try your best to stop her. There's never an excuse to kill gay people. Never an excuse to kill anyone. It's not like, well, it's okay. Back then, it was okay to stone gay people to death. No, it wasn't. Do you think Hitler needed to be stopped or allowed to continue doing harm? It's not your responsibility to change the world. I like to say in general that there's no good answers to these questions. Although more in terms of not hitting, not stopping someone or killing someone, obviously, who is hurting someone else. It's a hard one to understand, because emotionally we want to stop this person. I think it's great if we can intervene in a wholesome way. But scientifically speaking, objectively speaking, getting emotionally involved with anything is a problem. When you get upset at anything, it's bad. That's generally speaking. Now, the curious thing that we have to note is that in terms of these things, I mean, I guess this is how the context we have to put it in. One man is beating his wife, or one wife is beating her husband, which is, fair is fair. It's much less common. So it's more common for a man to beat his wife Should you, and you see it, should you, beat him? Should you attack him? Or should you even stop him? This question. Now, how we have to answer that as Buddhists is, if you want to be completely, and it sounds very cold and impractical and uncompassionate, does you intervening bring you closer to enlightenment? I think that's a fair question, even for the Mahayana Buddhists who believe that you should intervene quite more often than Theravada Buddhists do. I think that's an important way to frame the question, because then it's not, but that's what a good person does, or no, not even, but how can you even think to be so cruel as to ignore what's going on? You have to, it's your responsibility. Because I don't have to do anything. And as I've often said, if killing and stealing and lying and cheating actually made me happy, then why wouldn't I do it? What would be wrong with it if it actually made me happy? Very awful to say, right? No one wants to hear that. Cringe even thinking about it. But why we cringe is important, because it doesn't make us happy. Killing, stealing, lying, cheating. The important thing, and it sounds cold and cruel, but the important thing is that it doesn't make us happy. It doesn't lead to peace. It can't, by its very nature. Because it's evil. It is intrinsically evil. And it's evil in the sense that it disturbs, causes stress for the person who does it. It's much worse for the person who kills than for the person who's killed, and that's an important point. If you're tortured or killed, it's not as bad as torturing and killing. It's not as bad for you. It can actually be somewhat cathartic to be beaten, to be killed, because you learn more about suffering. I mean, it's being a bit, I don't mean to make light of it. It's awful, of course, but it's not awful in the same way as being an awful person is. A person who is tortured can learn a lot about suffering. That seems horrific to say, I know, but it is actually true. People who go through difficult ordeals can actually build character from it. Not to say that it's okay to, therefore okay to do this to people. It's not. It's horrible to do. The person who has anger and cruelty in their mind, they're the ones who are truly going to suffer. The ones that are truly perverted by the experience. But, sorry, getting quite off track. The answer is usually not quite so clear. I mean, if I intervene in this case, is it going to bring me closer to enlightenment? Because I might even get upset and hurt the person, and I might attack them in order to get them to stop. And that might be bad karma, you could say, because I've done something cruel to hurt someone. But overall, I've done something good. I've made someone happy, and I've stopped someone else from doing terrible things that are going to make them suffer as well. And so maybe on the balance, good has come from it, and maybe I feel better about myself for helping someone, and maybe it does lead me closer to enlightenment. So we understand this to be a black and white karma, generally speaking. There's some bad to it and some good to it, because there are moments. True karma is the moment. And the idea is to purify our minds to the point where we never give rise to unwholesome moments. And so asking questions about should one intervene, we can only give general answers. Like, generally speaking, it's going to build problematic habits of obsessing over other people's problems, trying to fix other people's problems, trying to save the world. Because even Mahayana Buddhists have to acknowledge that the goal is not to save the world in the sense of making the world a more comfortable place to live, but it's about saving minds, bringing people closer to enlightenment. So if it's not bringing people closer to enlightenment, it's not actually beneficial. Does Buddhism teach self-sacrifice? Meaning to be sacrificed for others' own interests or goals. Well, our Buddhism actually doesn't at all. But I wonder if you could say that Mahayana Buddhism does. I think it's not possible, because if you truly sacrifice your own well-being, I mean, I guess I just want to simply say that when you help someone else, you help yourself. Do something good for someone else, it's good for you. But there is the problem that when you go too far out of your way to help others, it may be a short-term benefit for other people, but the long-term repercussions to your own benefit, like if you stress yourself out about things, if you tax yourself, if you go too far out of your way to help others, you neglect your own well-being. And in the long term, it doesn't help you or others. It doesn't do good at all. So we tend to focus on self-betterment, because when you become a better person, much better, easier to help others. Do advanced Buddhist meditators ever cry? Tears can come, but it wouldn't be crying out of sorrow. A Buddhist can't cry out of sorrow. An advanced Buddhist meditator can cry out of rapture. That's possible. I don't think it's likely for an arahant to cry, out of joy even. I don't have, evidence or proof of that, but it seems somewhat excessive. Now, of course, the body will react to experiences, but it seems like an arahant would be so settled, centered, that extreme states of like coarse laughter or tears would be probably a bit too extreme. So I'm not convinced that an arahant can cry, but surely an advanced meditator can. And even out of sadness, how advanced. So even a sotapanna can still cry. Like Visakha is a good example. We got these stories of this woman who was a sotapanna, and her granddaughter died, and she started crying because she was advanced, but she wasn't perfect, or she maybe wasn't that advanced. But no, crying isn't always negligent. I mean, actually, I don't know. It seems to me maybe there is always a little bit, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. It comes from rapture, from states of such bliss that there's a bodily reaction. What's your view on experiencing life as if you were playing a game, the good and bad purely for experiencing the human condition? Was there a reason the universe chose to unfold like this? The universe didn't choose. The universe is only us. We are the universe. Life as if you're playing a game. Well, the problem with games is they're somewhat whimsical. Unless you mean by a game that you're trying to win. But I don't think so. I think you mean like an open-ended game where you just play, like a sandbox. Where you just play in the sandbox with no aim, build things, do this, do that. I would argue that that's sort of how we all live our lives. We don't have a set goal. We have our goals, but they're not real goals because we know they're not permanent. We're just playing in the sandbox for the most part. Some of us are better at it than others. Some of us get too serious about it. But no, that's not really the Buddhist way of looking at things. Buddhism, we're in it to win it. It's more somewhat I guess competitive, not competitive, but you know, more of a sport than a game. It's a game to be won, to be completed, get the best possible outcome. In Buddhism, there's a sense that if there's a better possible outcome to be had, a better possible path to be followed, then it's worth following. That's the point. Yeah, you can just play it as a game. It'll be some happiness, some suffering. But if you actually try and win, there'll be more happiness than suffering. Which is the point. All right, it's been over an hour and I've talked a lot. More than I expected. I expected to come on here and say, hey guys, I'm back. See you all tomorrow. But something was on my mind, this whole religion thing. And we happened to get a good quote for that. So I'll try to be on every night now. But we're going to have to be more meditative. So let's do some logged meditation. Try and meditate before the talk. And yeah, it's great. It's great to see that as soon as I'm back, everyone's back as well. I thought, oh no, I'll be back, but no one's going to come and listen. 46 viewers on YouTube. That's great. Have a good night, everyone. See you all tomorrow.